Now I want to introduce our second keynote speaker for the morning, and it's Neil McIvor, who is Head of Data for Public Services at eSynergy. Neil, over to you.
Wow, that's going to be a really hard talk to follow. Thank you for that one, Sarah. So really pleased that eSynergy has been able to be the platinum sponsor for today, which is widely seen as the data conference for government. Really looking forward to hearing some of the world-class conversations that we're going to be having throughout the day. So first of all, I want to give a big shout out to all the finalists of the Civil Service Data Challenge, which was announced a few weeks ago. The winners, Project Constellation, which uses algorithms and data analytics to create a prison system that predicts in real time when and where prison spaces become available. So over my career, I've previously spent 23 years in the civil service, and the main tenets that I've followed me throughout that career is reducing taxpayers' costs, increasing public value, and that motivation hasn't left me. So what I'd like to do in this opener is to acknowledge some of the amazing data work that's been done throughout all areas of the public sector, but I also want to take a bit of a helicopter view of where I think some of the public sector's big systematic challenges may be. So I'm going to talk a little bit about when I was a Chief Data Officer at the Department for Education. I had the privilege of leading a team that created the end-to-end data pipelines that collected daily school attendance data of all the children in all the schools in England. So that's about 16 million records we brought into the department every day. And that fed actionable insights back to schools with 20,000 or so real-time bespoke dashboards. And that helped individual schools understand and act on their own unique challenges, but it also enabled the publication on the day of the teacher's industrial action at about 4:30 p.m, official statistics detailing the impact on pupil attendance that very same morning. And that we needed to pull in 80 million records that day to do that from 20,000 different schools. So that is a potential that we have. That helps schools understand and identify patterns of absenteeism. It enabled at a national level understanding of attendance trends, supporting developing policies that address the root causes of child's absenteeism. And it also enabled future-proofing for the next pandemic, for the next Black Swan event, where these data can really help track the spread of illness and inform the necessary health measures. And whilst government has loads and loads of similar examples, systematically, I still think we have a long way to go, because it doesn't always work like that, does it? For you to have similar success stories, there are a few things I think that you need to think about. And I think one of the main areas, and Sarah touched on this as well, that we need to continue to focus on is a wider understanding of what data is and how it flows through systems. And who are the experts in your organisations that you need to talk to who really understand that journey? And doing that, we should be able to build on and improve some of the fabulous cross-government data sharing initiatives that already happen. We should be able to improve on switching the dial and pace of information flows when it becomes necessary to understand not just what's happening daily or even within days at times of crisis, but better streamlining citizen-facing transactional services that absolutely make all our lives as citizens of the UK much easier. So let me try and explain where I think we need to go the extra mile. So let's think of a coffee shop. Sometimes all you need is the perfect espresso. Oh, thank you very much. So we buy a fantastic coffee machine and we recruit the top class baristas, people like the data scientists under my friend Osama Armour at ONS or under Laura at 10 Data Science, the real experts at using coffee machines to make that perfect cup of coffee. But then somewhere else in government, someone wants a perfect flat white and they buy another coffee machine and recruit all their own baristas. And then somewhere else, someone wants the perfect latte and they buy another coffee machine and recruit their own baristas. And that duplication is actually a waste of taxpayers' money quite often. But those machines rely on a constant source of power and the right supply of coffee beans to make them work. So generally, we don't think about where the plug sockets are or how the electricity gets to those sockets. We don't even think about are there enough sockets not to overload them, especially with all the other machines that we have to plug into them. And individually, we tend to pop down to the supermarket to get small bags of coffee, but we don't really know where to go to get the cheaper wholesale bags at scale to ensure a constant supply. And that electricity and those coffee beans are your data. The machines are the tools that you need to turn those data into insight. Now, very simply, in my mind, after 23 years in this field, I think all end-to-end data pipelines are just three things. You've got to get the data from somewhere. That's acquiring it. Could be physically, could be virtualization. You need to put it somewhere. So transform it and structure it properly in a way that's sustainable and can be harnessed. And we need to use the data. It's my get, put, use model. And of course, if we aren't going to use the data, there's no point getting it in the first place. And we have many world-class experts in government on how to create insight from data, the expert baristas. But the get and the put phases are the phases that are often taken for granted, and that is the cause of many of the data challenges in government. Now, I don't know how many of you know the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, The Elves and the Shoemaker, where each morning the poor shoemaker finds beautifully crafted shoes on his workbench the next day that the elves made overnight. But we treat data like this, don't we? We expect perfectly crafted data sets, but we don't think about those poor data elves that work tirelessly all night to make them or even give a thought about how they're made. And too many times when I was in government, I was asked to build the impossible. And we need to remember all data costs. Could cost in terms of money, but it also costs in terms of burden, opportunity costs of frontline staff. If the data you want doesn't exist, someone's going to have to create it. And if they're creating it for someone else and not for their own needs, well, they might not put as much time and effort into the quality that you might hope for and expect. And in most data end-to-end pipelines, the cost burden lies with the supplier and the benefit lies with the end user. And if those two areas are in different organisations, you need to think really hard about how to incentivise the people who fundamentally you rely on to supply you those data. So in everything we do with data, we need to think about the whole end-to-end process and not just look at it from an end user perspective. And we often, especially across government, don't invest fully in those end-to-end pipelines, the human and the process infrastructures, the ways of working that we need to make these things happen at pace and create the value that data can really bring to organisations. And this is even more critical with large language models and artificial intelligence, which, if you go back to my coffee analogy, it's basically AI is just a super-duper coffee machine that goes ping at the end of the brew. So imagine AI's a gourmet meal for a minute. If you only have lentils and stock cube in the larder, even if you hire a Michelin-starred chef, all you're going to get at best is a mediocre soup. So you need to ensure that you have the right ingredients of the right quantities of the right quality for it to work. And I think a lot of the challenges that you face often boil down to misunderstandings in terms of vocabulary, who does what. So some of my many challenges in my career has been the product of just those misunderstandings. People using the same words to mean different things or using the different words to mean the same things. So let's briefly go on to some definitions of what, in my mind, data are and what they're not. So data, to me, very basically, is the information that exists all around us. It's the raw stuff that we use to enable us to understand the world around us. It could be geospatial information, it could be financial information, drone footage, signals from sensors, from Formula One cars, whatever it is. These data are the electricity and the coffee beans we need to run the machines. Data, to me, is not analysis or analytics. And often in government, we use the term data and analysis interchangeably. So analytics to me tells me what's happening, how many widgets have been built, how many job outcomes a provider has achieved this week, where do people drop out of a system or a process, how many people have applied for something. Analysis to me tells me what's working. Is my policy getting better results than would have happened if there was no policy in place in the first place? What would be the long-term impacts and implications of a course of action? Have those outcomes actually met the policy ambition? So analysis to me answers the so what question. But data also isn't, in my mind, technology. Data flows through the tech and it flows through platforms, but you can't take the data for granted as it flows through those systems. Technology is the means and the tools to enable the data to flow through the systems, but the data are the core ingredient of doing all of that. You can flow data through a system, but if it isn't managed or governed properly, you will have issues. And there are loads of job titles going around, aren't there? In technology, in digital, in data analysis. And often, if we're really, really honest, we don't really know what each one specialises in. So to me, a data scientist, an analyst, an economist, a statistician, they use data to create insights. Your chief technology officer should be responsible for ensuring the organisation has the right tools and platforms to enable the effective operations and be responsible for the cyber security of the organisation. But your other data professionals, your chief data officer, your data engineers, your data architects, they're the experts in understanding the science of how data flows through systems and how it needs to be modelled and structured and managed and governed to ensure it can be effectively and efficiently used. And of course there will be overlaps and there'll be those rare unicorns that specialise across functions. But as a rule of thumb, don't ask the electrician to sort your plumbing out. So I'm going to finish now on 4 points which I hope you'll find useful for the conversations ahead. Firstly, when you're thinking of policy solutions, ensure you think about the data needs and the end-to-end data pipelines and processes you need, especially at the design and thinking phase of those policies. And this is even more critical if you're thinking about AI. Secondly, understand who your data experts are and engage them. Talk to your chief analyst about insight, but talk to your chief data officer about the data pipeline and solutions. Thirdly, don't treat data as a free good. Just like roads and rails, data needs infrastructure to work effectively and smoothly, and these can cost time and money to set up properly and to maintain, especially if you want to stop building unsustainable, expensive cottage industries in your organisation. And then finally, always think about the public value that you're adding. And it may be productivity value, it might be social value, but ensure you can, wherever possible, identify and realise the value of the data in your data product or your data pipeline. So, thank you very much. If you want to talk to me more, I'm going to be at our eSynergy stall in the concourse, which is near the coffee points. Have a great day. And as you listen to speakers and have those conversations over that perfect espresso or the perfect latte, remember it's all about the data. The data is the lifeblood of our organisation. It's the power that drives the progress, and it's the ingredients that, if combined in the right way, should give us all food for thought. Thank you very much.